All right, welcome back to another episode of the Semi-Related Podcast. It's Friday, and I'm here with Evan. Evan, how are you doing this Friday?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing good. And Evan, do you like the title of CEO and founder, or what do you prefer to go by?
Honestly, I don't know. Chief truck parking guy. I guess formally go by CEO, but I don't really think about it like that. But I guess perhaps.
I like Chief Truck Parking Guy. So
Yeah.
yeah, you're CEO and founder of Truck Parking Club. Do you want to tell us a little bit about your background and kind of what led up to founding of that?
Yeah, for sure. So, um, my background is real estate and doing real estate deals. I went out on my own and started flipping houses, really like 12, 18 months after getting out of college, getting a college degree. I go start flipping houses on my own, leave the corporate world. And from there, what you'll see with real estate, for a lot of people, they continue to just grow to bigger and bigger things. And so I started flipping houses, then bigger houses, then stumbled into a land deal pretty early on, and saw that it was a cool industry. It was, taking pieces of land and making them more valuable was a nice niche, and did really well with that. And through doing land deals, I figured out that truck parking was a huge issue, that there wasn't enough of it, and huge demand. That demand was continuing to grow, and then that made me question what's really going on with truck parking, and that was back in 2021. And from there, started getting more into the industry, talking with stakeholders in the industry, talking to people running truck parking facilities, and ultimately, there were a lot of conversations and just a lot of thinking. I came up with Truck Parking Club, and um, you know, really took a we are taking a very fragmented industry and consolidating it. Um, Rather than, I'm coming from real estate. I initially wanted to buy a bunch of real estate, own a bunch of real estate, operate it, and what I realized is it's extremely tough to scale. Um, and if you leverage technology and existing space, you can scale extremely quickly.
Yeah, it seems like you've gotten into the industry pretty quickly. It seems like it was a good fit for you. I mean, you've got the trucker headset on, the trucker hat right now. We actually met at ATA. So just kind of tell me a little bit about what that transition was like, kind of going from real estate, meeting the stakeholders in the industry and learning about the issues that they're facing with truck parking.
Yeah, so in real estate, I learned that networking connections were everything. And I didn't know a ton about transportation and logistics, but what I started doing is networking with a lot of people, a lot of stakeholders, and doing a lot of the same things that made me successful in real estate, and putting that and assuming it would work for transportation. Um, and it did. And I just, talked to a lot of people and learned about the industry and learned about where could we really provide a lot of value. And I mean, it really just boils down to creating connections with a lot of different people in the industry and learning from them.
Yeah, you've taken a very boots on the ground approach. Kind of tell me about what you've seen out there on your trips, going to conferences, going to trade shows. You're at Race Across America in DC, I believe. You've kind of been all over the place. What are you seeing on the ground, and kind of what are you hearing about the truck parking problem?
Yeah, I mean, going to these events for me is a great way to connect with a lot of people and a lot of times people you would never connect with otherwise. I mean, I think a good example is meeting you and Chris at the ATA event. There's a decent likelihood I never would have connected with you guys. I mean, we ended up having dinner. I mean, it was a great experience. And what are the odds of that happening if I had shot Chris a message on LinkedIn? Um, it still could have happened because he's a super nice guy, but um, you get what I'm saying. I think going there, showing up, talking with people that are smarter than you, learning from them, it, that that work, th that works very well for me, and that's why I go to so many events, is because I know the event I don't go to could be an event that puts me another step forward, by creating great relationships or learning something new. Um, I think if I can fit it in my calendar, I should go. And that's me personally. And I know a lot of people would say I'm crazy. I've had people tell me I'm pretty crazy with my travel schedule, but for me, it works, and I think it has allowed the company to move very quickly and do a lot of things very quickly.
Yeah, and I mean, I feel like I see left and right on y'all's LinkedIn that you're adding new locations, constantly expanding, growing these truck parking locations. So, kind of tell me about what you've seen with those relationships as you meet these property owners. I think you all kind of refer to them as hosts. What's the reception like there whenever you're just kind of out there making these connections with owners who may not have thought about using their property for truck parking before, and kind of what their thoughts are as you open them up to that idea?
Yeah, I would say a lot of people are very receptive. I think what we're doing is really just educating people on the fact that we exist and the fact that we have a process that is automated, that we make sure every single new property we bring on the platform, which we refer to as property members, where like Airbnb, they call them hosts, and you'll see in some of our collateral and stuff, we may mention the word host because that's what people understand. But once they're onboarded and they're on the platform, we call them property members. Um, but most are receptive. It is really just educating them on, well, we've made it to where it's essentially passive because we take care of, through thousands of iterations, real world learning, we figured out processes and automation and the technology and the team to make sure things run extremely smoothly at all times. And it's just educating the property owners about that, and educating them by showing them examples of how we're actually doing it and how we're executing on it. And for the most part, um, you know, property owners are typically like, wow, I figured it would be more complicated. I was skeptical. I tried it before and it didn't work out. Whatever the case may be, and it is really just with educating them on exactly what we're about and what we're doing. It typically, they're happy, and why are they happy? Because they're taking existing space that they're not using because they're a truck repair shop and they've got a yard in the back that they never use, and now they get to use it, and they don't have to hire someone to keep up with accepting money, making sure the right people are coming and going, um, you know, all those things that you would need to hire 1 to 2 people to do, we automate for them. And we can get them in the business of truck parking as long as they have space suitable for truck parking.
And so, as you're kind of educating them on this, are a lot of them aware of how serious the truck parking problem is? Kind of what is your experience like that, and how do you educate them on that?
Yeah, I think a lot, for most of our property members, a lot of them are aware, because they're involved in transportation, logistics, trucking in some manner, and most of them are. I would say 90+% of them are aware that there's some type of issue, and I think there's a sense of pride in the fact that they can help, add, maybe it's only 5 spaces, maybe it's only 10 spaces, but that's 5 or 10 spaces that now can be publicly available, that truckers over the road can plan pre-trip easier, feel more confident that they're not going to struggle to find parking when they're ready to stop. I think there's a sense of pride, a sense of contribution to that, and that's really how we've built the company. Is we're working toward a bigger mission of let's go out and create more truck parking that was never publicly available, and we really try to get our property members on board with that same mission.
Yeah, I like the intentional decision you made to name it Truck Parking Club. Their property members, everyone gets to be a part of that and kind of be a part of this community. Could you kind of talk to what what the rationale was behind that and kind of how that plays into the community you're building?
Yeah, I mean, I wish I had a good story for it, to be honest, but I'll tell you the real story, and it doesn't make me sound as smart as it may seem. So I started this company. I'm actually a co-founder, and I started this company with someone else who had the URL because he has truck parking locations. He's like a traditional operator, but he's a minority owner in the company now, and um, he had this URL somehow, and he mentioned it to me, and I was like, we could run with that. And he had like this idea of kind of how to do it a little bit differently. And I convinced him like, I don't really want to start that business. I want to start something a little bit different like this. And he's like, sure, go for it. And ultimately, he became a minority owner. I had the majority of the business, have the majority of the business, and just took it and kind of took that marketplace model and just ran with it. And the word club fits in really well with that. So I wish it was a grand plan, but it actually was just that there was a URL and it made sense, and I just kind of put it together and said, let's roll with it. I mean, it could have very well ended up being something a little bit different if that hadn't been the case, but it worked, and it fit well enough, and I think we've really and continue to really lean into the kind of club feel, the culture of belonging, and that we have community guidelines and standards, and um, we want to treat everyone on the platform with respect, whether it's a trucker toward the property, the trucker member toward the property member, or the property member toward the trucker member.
We'll chalk it up to good karma that happened. Because as a marketer, I was curious how the URL came to be about because that's a great one.
Hey, I mean, I'll take the luck, man. Looking at this business, there's been an odd amount of things that just kind of fell into place that I feel super fortunate that they happen, and I can't tell you how, just maybe part of it's just showing up and then just like seeing what happens.
Well, what do they say? Good luck is whenever preparation meets opportunity, and I think that's what's so great about talking to any CEO and founder like this is someone who's kind of taking a chance, seeing a problem, and finding a solution. So, whenever I mentioned the good karma, I'm kind of assuming that you're getting some of that from these truck drivers who are appreciative of these opportunities. So, could you kind of tell me what the reception has been like from drivers and kind of what you're hearing on that front?
Yeah, so I think and I'm sure you're well aware, I think there is a bit of a split between drivers that say, paid parking is a scam, paid parking is only created to take more money from truckers. It is trying to take the last dollar from the truckers in an already tough industry and things of that nature. And we go to a lot of truck shows. We go to a lot of truck parking lots. We go to a lot of businesses that have a lot of truck parking and just stop in and hang out and get food. And inevitably, you will meet a segment of people like that. And I love talking to those guys because we get to go back and forth on what is our mission as Truck Parking Club, and why do you think what we're doing is wrong or stealing or a scam? And there's some of the most amazing conversations you'll ever have, because it's in the beginning they're mad, aggravated, and then you're like, well, no, we're not against free parking. We create more parking, um, and we add rest stops that show real-time availability as free parking, just as a free service. We're not here to take away free parking. We're here to provide visibility to new parking options, and that property owners, yes, are going to want to get paid to start parking trucks on their property, but that is parking that was never there before. You can drop a trailer for multiple days. 99.9% of free parking is stay there for your tenor and you got to go. What we do is, you know, anywhere from 1 hour to weeks or months at a time, and everything in between if you need to drop a trailer, et cetera. So we're not just taking, these locations and turning them into, um, uh, daily only or hourly only or whatever. Some of them do opt into that, but for the most part, we provide options that, an owner operator may not have had, where we tell owner operators, think of Truck Parking Club like your personal terminal with 200, I think we have 218 locations as of today. Think of us like your personal terminal. Now you can drop a trailer at any of these places and run loads when typically you would run a load out, hopefully run a load back. Now you can get way more creative because you can use Truck Parking Club like your personal terminal. And just having those conversations, and within 5 or 10 minutes with some of these guys that are just adamant that we're doing something wrong. Every, I mean, pretty much, I think every time, by the end of it, they're like, "I'm going to give you a shot because I understand it better now. You're not a scam. You're out here talking to drivers. You're not just sitting in an office in San Francisco or sitting in an office in Miami." Um,
You're out here in Chattanooga, Tennessee, right?
I moved to Chattanooga for this company to put the headquarters here. Um, and ultimately, through those interactions, we learned so much, and hopefully, we can make a difference with some of those drivers that think what we're doing is wrong. And we do a lot of education on social media. I'm sure you've probably seen some of the interactions where someone will come off with something that's not quite true, but kind of sounds good, where they're saying, you're a scam, or who knows, they just like say things, and then we'll come back with a very reasonable response. And a lot of times those end up going to like DMs or phone calls where we're talking to them. We're like, we're not against you. And what if you could get another hour down the road if you pay $20 at this location? What's that worth? I bet it's worth more than $20. And through those conversations, it's just educating. We just educate people, one person at a time. And it's very rare if someone's just like, you know, we don't understand and we still think you're not legitimate, and or it's not even legitimacy, right? It's more about taking free parking and turning it into paid parking. Like that's the big thing. But those are super interesting conversations. I think that's one of the most honestly fun parts of this job, is just taking people and kind of shaping the way their consciousness of like how they think about like what we're doing. And for the most part, it's been very receptive. And then I talk about the one side of it, and then the other side is the people that are like, I get it, I love it, thank you so much. I now have a parking spot in Dallas, in Fort Worth, in Houston, in Atlanta, in Inland Empire, that now I can just easily hop on the app, reserve it, boom. I know I have a spot. I'm not gonna get bothered. It's worth $20 to me. It's worth $30 to me. It's worth $10 to me. Whatever. Um, and they're like, this is really amazing, and we love what you're doing, and I'll tell everybody, all my trucker friends about it. And that those are the people that it's really cool, and I'm super thankful that they are open-minded to what we're doing and they give it a shot. And when they give it a shot and they have a good experience, a lot of those members are with us forever, and they're going to use us anytime that they can. We've actually hired a couple of those guys on that has used us a lot across the road, over the road. Guys that have used us dozens of times, and they call in our customer service and they're just like, I just love what you guys are doing. I just parked at your location here. Do you have any employment opportunities? And we've hired those people, and we continue to hire those people. And that's the really special stuff. You're like, wow, this is pretty wild, to see it all kind of unravel from, infancy, zero, nothing to like some real impact.
And I love how appreciative you are of those people. And I mean, we'd love for everyone to have free parking everywhere, but that's just not the reality of the world we live in, right? And I think whenever you look at it from that value perspective, that you kind of gave the example of $20 to park here, you get, you know, how much of your time is that worth? So that's a really important way to look at it and think of it as an opportunity. You mentioned 218 locations, I think. Kind of tell me about what what the range of those spots look like and kind of what different types of parking are out there and how these drivers are using them.
Yeah, so we have locations that are, just empty lots that are, convenient, maybe off a major thoroughfare, a major interstate, etc. A lot of those lots are going to be more for, dropping empty dry vans, things of that nature, but they do serve a good need for drivers. Um, and then we have on the opposite end of the spectrum, we have high security, 24/7, 24/7 security, electric fences, cameras, the works, you name it. And then we have everything in between. And, every single property is unique. They have unique things about them, whether it's entering, exiting, security, types of security, um, and, and I think what we do is anything that is suitable and adequate for truck parking, we make it available and we make sure that the experience for our trucker member is smooth. And, for, I think I've had people tell me, well, they're not all secure lots. Well, yeah, we have open lots and we have a lot of drivers that park there because it is a much better alternative to parking on the shoulder of an interstate. Um, and it suits the needs for that driver at that particular point in time. And a guy with uh, a load full of Samsung cell phones, he's not stopping there. But a guy with an empty dry van that needs to drop it and run another load, that's an amazing opportunity where if he had dropped it at that lot and that lot wasn't on Truck Parking Club and the owner didn't know, the property member didn't, allow trailers and he just took a risk, there's a high likelihood that trailer gets kingpin, towed, booted, etc. And we make it possible. And I would to elaborate on that a little bit, and I think kind of take the point home is the we have lots in rural America. I'm talking population 5,000 towns and all across Kentucky, Tennessee, Georgia, Alabama, super rural areas, and they get bookings, and you're like, wow, this is wild. Why would they do that? Because there's existing space out there. There's some gravel lot somewhere. But why do they do that? They do that because they know Truck Parking Club, they trust Truck Parking Club, and they know Truck Parking Club has taken the time to vet that property and they're allowed to be there. So they're not going to wake up to a boot. They're not going to wake up to a tow truck. They're not going to wake up to, someone banging on their door saying, get the hell out of here. Um, and we help give them that peace of mind. And if that peace of mind costs $10 or $20, we have drivers that'll do it every single time. And I think that shows the point of like what we're doing, that we approve these properties, verify these properties, and we give the truckers peace of mind and reliable parking across the U.S.
Yeah, I think you touched on an important point there. Let's kind of zoom in on what the alternative to Truck Parking Club is, right? You're talking about these trucks parking on the shoulder. They're getting a boot. They're getting, their door knocked on in the middle of the night and just being somewhere they may not supposed to have been. Kind of talk about the current state of truck parking and what y'all are trying to solve for that.
Yeah, so I would say one of the emerging things that we see is predatory towing, which is insane. But essentially, what some tow companies have realized is this is that driver's livelihood, and you can kind of hold them hostage if they don't get that load delivered. So, you know, even in some scenarios, the tow truck company may be in the right to like um, give them a ticket or whatever because they're parked in a spot they shouldn't be, but they take them hostage. I mean, they take it above and beyond what it should be, right? Like this guy's got a live load that he needs to deliver. He's taking his 10, a place he shouldn't be, understood. But now you're throwing and you're saying 5 grand or you're not leaving. And it's like, oh wow, like that's really sad. That's a sad thing that you'll hear in the industry. Whether someone's parked in the right spot or not, you can't take someone hostage because
Hmm.
you're taking their livelihood and it's their livelihood, so they're going to pay whatever it is to keep going so they don't get a stain on their record, that either their employer or whatever. I mean, it's all negatives for that driver from there on. I mean, if they pay it, they lose. If they don't pay it, they lose. Um, I don't know. But if they don't deliver, they lose probably the worst. So it's pretty wild, and it's becoming more common. I think some of the tow truck companies have realized that the matter is not criminal; it's civil, and so they're like, "Take me to court. Let's see what happens. You're parked in the wrong spot. It's 10 grand. Deal with it." Um, and I think laws are starting to change for that, as they should, because that's insane. But even you'll see predatory towing in places where they're allowed to be parked, and they'll like fake boot people and stuff, and then demand like $1,000. It's pretty wild. So I feel for drivers for that, but I think there's a lot of awareness being spread around that a lot of this stuff is scams. So um, that's an interesting state of truck parking right now. I would say another, and you're just wanting me to go broad, just things going on with truck parking.
Yeah.
Um, so another thing I would say, there's a lot of truck parking operators out there that are going and building a lot of new facilities, which is great. We have, you know, I don't know, I'm guessing maybe half of our locations are truck parking operators, and the other half are non-public spaces or previously non-public. Um, and those truck parker operators, they're doing great work because they're creating more parking and ultimately relieving that issue. And it's I know for a fact it is extremely hard to get those locations leased, set up, rolling, and to where they make money. It may look good in the sense of like you've got a lot full of trucks, perhaps, but at the end of the day, when the bills fall where they fall, is the lot actually profitable? I think there was a misnomer a couple years ago that they would all be profitable and you'd make a ton of money, and I think a lot of operators have realized that it's not quite that simple.
Hmm.
And so I feel for them, but some of them are executing and doing a very good job. And ultimately, we want all the parking we can get. Truck Parking Club will continue to be a partner with those guys as much as they want us to be, and get them more trucks parked at their locations and give our trucker members more options. I guess another thing I can think of right off is that 750 million or so that's allocated to free truck parking across the U.S. From everything I've seen, it appears that that's going to happen. I think there's a lot of support for it. I don't know. I don't know if it's going to happen this year. I think it was supposed to happen last year. I think it got put off. Unless I'm missing something in, I think perhaps it might happen this year. But with it being an election year, who knows? So I think it ultimately will happen, and it should. Um, but 750 million will create tens of thousands of spaces, and we need hundreds of thousands. And it'll take a decade or so to roll that capital out, deploy it, and then build and develop and and create parking. It's about a decade process, I'm guessing. So yeah, those are three things I can think of that's kind of going on in the industry. I'm pretty in touch with, you know, what's happening because it's my life. I can't really think of anything else. Can you think? Do you have any?
One thing I was going to ask about was the efficiency. How hard is it currently to find truck parking? How much time are these drivers spending when they're trying to find it? And kind of talk about the benefit to being able to plan ahead and know where your next stop is going to be, and that you have a place for the night or to drop that trailer or whatever the situation may be.
Yeah, so truck parking clubs, mission statement, North Star is truck parking club helps truckers save time and fuel by efficiently finding and reserving truck parking across the US. The average trucker takes 50 minutes or so to find parking, and at Truck Parking Club, we're on a mission to get that down to 10 minutes or less, to where it is simple to go onto the Truck Parking Club app or website, book parking, find availability in the area you're needing parking, book it immediately, and get parked safely and reliably and off of unsafe parking location, and not wasting hours looking for parking. So there is a ton of inefficiency. And with what we're doing with our marketplace model, as we continue to create more density, create more supply, we will slowly, help truckers have those great experiences of, man, I don't know where any truck parking is at. Let me check out Truck Parking Club. Oh my God, they have something down the street. $15. Heck yeah, sounds good. Or they have something. I have, I have an hour and a half left on my clock. I was going to stop now, but now they have something 45 minutes down the road. I'm going to reserve it, get 45 minutes down the road. Now, what is that worth? Uh, those are the types of experiences that we have trucker members having now. And as we create more density and supply, we'll continue to create those types of experiences for drivers and ultimately chip away at that 50 minutes to where it's 10 minutes or less. Doing that at a mass scale, that's millions of drivers. Ultimately, it's debatable what the exact number is, but to do that for a large number of drivers and ultimately bring that and create that alpha between 50 minutes and 10 minutes um, takes time, takes density, takes execution, takes a great product that customers feel confident they can hop on and use. Creates a great. It takes a great support system internally with the company, and we're continuing to build on that, and we're moving very very quickly, but continue to push it to go faster and faster.
And we're recording this on January 5th for everybody listening, but it's the start of the new year, 2024. What are the goals for Truck Parking Club for 2024, and kind of what does the roadmap for this year look like for you all?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question. I would say it's not probably not the answer you want, but I think about Truck Parking Club a day at a time, and I'm constantly evaluating the company a day at a time, and watching our growth every single day. Obviously, the days fluctuate up and down as far as number of bookings and number of new spaces added, but I'm constantly watching it. I'm watching that trend line, and staying to our current trend, and ultimately with the right systems in place, really accelerating that trend is our ultimate goal. Watching our product help drivers find parking, and really putting data behind that, and watching how quickly we're growing and keeping that pace, and ultimately, um, one goal that will help me give you something a little more tangible is, we're pushing to get to 1,000 properties as quickly as possible. And I think by all means, I think we could very well accomplish that 2024. I, um, yeah, I mean, I think it is very likely we pass 1,000 properties in 2024. Uh, I think there's a case where we could be pushing 2,000 properties. We have to execute. But there's a real case where that can happen. We add, I mean, for perspective, we add, 1 to 2 new properties every day now, every single day. That's 365 days a year. And that number is constantly trending upward. So you multiply out those numbers, and we should be well into the thousands if we execute properly. So that's one number I can give you.
Yeah.
I won't talk about revenue numbers or anything like that. You know, but and to date, thousands and thousands of we've helped thousands and thousands of truckers get safely parked. Very soon we'll be able to say tens of thousands. And we're rocking, man. We're rocking and rolling.
Well, that's exciting, and I hope it continues on a great trend and we hit that 1,000 number and go beyond this year. Our final question we like to ask everyone is, what is your bold prediction for the future of trucking? I guess we could put a truck parking on it there for you.
The bold prediction for repeat that to me again, Jacob.
The bold prediction for the future of trucking.
The bold prediction for the future of trucking. I think, can I just speak to truck parking because it's my
Oh yeah, we love it.
I I think I think awareness of availability of parking is a huge part of the issue, and executing on making the awareness of available parking easier to drivers is that next foray, which we're doing in mass, but continuing to execute on that. And I think as that awareness becomes available through even rest stops and truck stops and what we're doing, that is a huge part. And I think creating more initiatives for that overall awareness of parking across the U.S. is going to be, I think it's on a lot of people's minds. I think it's is how do we create that awareness? Because if there's 100 parking spots a mile away, but there's no way for you to know unless you drive down that street, is it really there? Is it
Truck Parking Club is going to go drive down that street for you, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's a great analogy. And I think that is how you create significant change. And I think executing on that will create a new, for truck parking, I think it will be groundbreaking. But 217 isn't it. It is ultimately tens of thousands of locations. That's when it becomes any driver can get significant value by picking up, the Truck Parking Club app or whatever other technology emerges and says, there's a spot. I didn't have any other options. Now I do. And I think that, trucking, that has significant effects on trucking in the long term that I think I think people understand truck parking is a problem. I think a lot of people understand that, but I think it is underestimated when you create the efficiencies where you're not looking for parking for an hour. Those efficiencies, what that can do ultimately for the bottom line of the owner operator, the bottom line of the carrier, the bottom line of the mega carrier.
Exactly. I think there's a lot of opportunity to optimize those as you get that visibility, start to layer on top of that, and kind of reach that next level that you're describing there. So, Evan, I want to thank you for taking the time to chat with us today and kind of inform us on where the truck parking problem is and where the future of it's headed. So, thank you very much for being here.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much for having me, Jacob.
Awesome. Thanks. Have a good weekend.
Thanks.